Hello and welcome to the video. My name is Argent Sergeant and this gentleman with the funky facial hair right here is Chinpachi. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Rails and Redstone in a couple of very basic levels of knowledge. First I'm going to tell you what the end product is going to be. In Moron Craft episode 2, which is coming out at some point over the next couple of weeks, I've created a rail network that is going to be joining my bases together along with one of the bases of my other fellow morons. Part of this system is this contraption here, which is one of two that are currently live in the project, which will allow us to press one button, a minecart will be dispensed, we will jump in the minecart, wait a couple of moments, and then this powered rail will be powered and send us off on our merry way, just like this. Jump in, go off where you're going, and then when you come back, you get out of the cart, send it away, and put it back in the dispenser for the next person to use. So, if that sounds like the sort of thing that you want to build, then stick around. And even if it doesn't, chances are a couple of layers of knowledge held within this video will be of interest to you. So this video is going to take you through the very basics of Rails, right up into some moderately advanced levels of Redstone that will hopefully show you the way to creating some pretty funky stuff. Just as a side note, I'm not very advanced with Redstone. I think T flip-flops are complicated. Always pays to wear a thinking cap if you're ever doing complicated stuff. It's worth remembering that my teaching methods are moron resistant, but not completely foolproof. So, if you, like me, are a member of Mumbo Jumbo's single brain cell squad, then you'll fit right in around here. We will be going through Knowledge Level 1, which talks about these three components here, plus the minecart. Level 2 introduces us to Redstone Dust, the dispenser, and the stone button. And Level 3 involves the scary repeater and the sticky piston. So let's get right to it. Level 1 involves the powered rail, the lever, the rail, and the minecart. You will notice that the minecart cannot be placed on the ground or any surface other than any kind of rail. You get rid of minecarts just by hitting them. In creative mode they go away in one hit. In survival mode you might have to give it 5 or 6 goes. Regular rails can be laid on flat surfaces and they will automatically turn themselves into corners. Like that. And that. And that. When you place a minecart on some rails you can right click it to jump in and press W to go forward. And you will slowly creep forward. You'll gain a little bit of speed, but not a lot. You can also push them. But, left to their own devices, they will always come to a stop. You can turn corners with regular rails, but you can't turn corners with powered rails. Powered rails can only ever be straight. You can go up and down hills with rails, and you can go up and down hills with powered rails. But, you cannot go around a corner and up a hill at the same time. Which means that if you want to go up or downhill, you will have to leave an extra block to allow for a corner and then your first hill. If the minecart is being moved only by you pushing it, it will not have enough momentum to get up a hill. But what you can do is you can stand outside the minecart, push it, jump in it while it's moving, and you'll be on your way. You can also ride minecarts downhill to gain speed. If you pass a minecart over a powered rail that is not powered, it will come to a complete stop. Even if it's on a hill. You can power a powered rail by placing a lever next to it and turning it on. The same as when they're on a slope. You can place it on the block on the floor next to it, on the wall next to it, or even round here. Or even round the back of this block. And it will turn that rail on. And then, it'll make you go faster up hills. Or, it'll make you go faster down hills. If you leave this powered rail on, and turn this powered rail off, you'll accelerate, and then suddenly stop when you hit the other powered rail. That's knowledge level 1. We are now on to knowledge level 2. Let's talk about redstone dust, dispensers, and stone buttons. If redstone is electricity, redstone dust is wires. This will carry redstone pulses and signals across distance. A stone button will power adjacent blocks for a duration of 10 redstone ticks. The redstone dust will pick up this signal and carry it down the line. A dispenser, when powered by a redstone signal, will spit out a minecart. If you put minecarts in it. If you put rails in front of the dispenser, it will put a minecart on the rails. Do note that if there is no rail in front of the dispenser, it will only drop the minecart in a way that allows you to pick it up. But with rails in front, it will physically place it on the ground. Redstone rails can be temporarily powered by placing a button next to them and turning it on. You can also do this from a distance away by putting redstone dust in between them. You can put a button directly onto a dispenser by pressing shift so you crouch and then right clicking to place. Once you've done this, you can dispense a minecart onto rails directly in front of the dispenser as we mentioned. This also works for powered rails, and you will notice that the rails are powered for a short amount of time after the minecart is dispensed. But the minecart doesn't go anywhere because it's not being encouraged to move in any particular direction. If you stand about here, the minecart, when it's dispensed, will be in the same place as you, and the game doesn't like that very much. So what will happen is that the minecart will be pushed away from you, and the powered rails will make it move faster. If you place rails like this, it will create a ramp, as we know. But if you destroy this rail at the top, this one in the middle will stay exactly where it is. Not only can you power rails by placing a lever on an adjacent block, but you can also feed redstone dust into the block and power it from a distance. You can place a minecart onto a powered rail on a slope and it won't move. If you power the powered rails, gravity will make it start moving and the powered rails will cause it to accelerate even faster. You can dispense minecarts onto a ramped rail. The redstone pulse that comes from the stone button does stay active for long enough, however, to cause the minecart to roll away, so it won't stay there. The presence of green blocks indicates that it is time for the bonus information. Now when I say bonus information, it's information that's handy to have, but it's not really very relevant to the rest of the video. You remember earlier when we stood in just such a location and it made the minecart roll away when we dispensed it onto powered rails? Well, you can create that same effect by placing a block right next to it. Because the minecart does occupy part of this block's space, the game doesn't like that very much, and so it makes it roll away. This does not work if you use regular rails. It will be happy to sit there just for a little bit. See that? You can place a dispenser underneath powered rails or even regular rails and it will still dispense a minecart onto them. And the same rules apply here. And the same rules apply here. If you're ever planning to use this technique to get your minecarts going, remember that this only works with powered rails. With regular rails, it just won't go. Bonus round over and we're on to level 3. The thing that takes us into knowledge level 3 is the question of how can I dispense a minecart onto these powered rails without it suddenly moving away? If you're anything like me and you're really slow and your reaction times are bad, you might not feel like the time you've got after pressing this button is quite enough for you to comfortably get yourself seated in the minecart and make sure your handbag and your phone are with you. I mean, that goes away pretty quick. Well, not like really quick, but like I said, I'm kind of slow. The solution to this problem lies in the employment of these final two components in the video. We have the scary repeater and we have the sticky piston. Now we remember our stone button. When I press this stone button, it will activate this redstone dust, which will send a pulse into this regular piston and this sticky piston. Now the difference between a regular piston and a sticky piston is that a regular piston will move the block up one block and it will stay moved. It will not come back down. A sticky piston has slime on the face and is therefore stuck to this iron block and will bring it back down when it comes back down again. There is a lot going on with the Redstone Repeater, but there are a couple of features in particular that we're going to be making use of in this video. First and foremost, it is worth knowing that when you create a redstone pulse, its power diminishes with time. This is what's known as signal strength. So you'll see when I turn this button on, this redstone is really bright, but this redstone is a bit dimmer. Having a repeater in the line renews the strength of that redstone signal, so you'll see that this dust here is just as bright as this dust now. And you see on the left of the repeater, the dust is dim, and on the right of the repeater, the dust is a lot brighter. So we can see that a redstone repeater takes in a signal on one side and spits it out again stronger. But what's important is that it will only do it after a certain amount of time. This slider here is there to decide how long the redstone repeater is going to hold on to the signal before it releases it again. At the moment, it will only hold on to it for one redstone tick before it releases it again. Now it will hold on to it for 2 redstone ticks, 3 redstone ticks, 4 redstone ticks. So you will see it takes a bit longer to come back to us. Another really important thing about redstone repeaters is that it will only let power through one way. See how it's not coming out the other side? It's got to be that way round. Can't be that way round. Can't be that way round. And it certainly can't be that way round. So the fixed edge of the repeater is always on the way out, the way the redstone is travelling. Redstone repeaters also help direct power into blocks. So for example, we'll see that by having redstone dust on this block next to the piston, it won't actually power it. And nor will this. And nor will this. That's because the redstone's interested in joining up with redstone. It's not interested in joining into the piston. So what you have to do is you can put a redstone repeater in there and you can see that the dust wants to go along this line into the repeater and then back out again. Voila. You can put loads of redstone repeaters together in place of dust when it's in a straight line. Repeaters can't turn corners. And you can extend the delays. So now what we have is after we press that button, we're going to have a delay of 1, 2, 3, 4 times 4, 16 ticks before that piston actuates. The added benefit of a repeater is that it can stop redstone lines being connected to each other. So for example, when I press this button, the signal doesn't travel up here to the end and back down again. It just travels into here and it spreads out everywhere into all the dust, as you can see there. So if I put some repeaters in here like this, what's happening in these repeaters doesn't have an effect on what's going on this dust. And then I can place that delay in, and 12 ticks after pressing the button, this dust will power up. So that is your sticky piston and your redstone repeater. These are important because we need them to produce a monostable circuit. Now this is where things start getting a little bit tricky, so hang on to your hats. What we've got here is a rising edge monostable circuit. So what do we mean when we say rising edge monostable circuit? Well, I'm not entirely sure, but I can tell you what a rising edge is. So when you look at a power switch, you'll see a circle and a line next to each other. The circle means off and the line means on. That's actually a 0 and a 1. So currently this redstone is in a 0 position, and when you turn that lever, it's in a 1 position. So it goes between 0 and 1. So when it goes between 0 and 1, that is what we call the rising edge of a pulse, as it rises from 0 to 1. Conversely, when the signal goes from on to off, 1 to 0, this is what we refer to as the falling edge. We can also think of it represented by this piston. As the redstone signal rises, the piston rises. Rising edge, falling edge. The piston rises, and the piston falls. So what does all this mean? Well, what it means is that when you press this button, your 10-tick long redstone pulse is reduced to a single tick, and this dispenser spits out the minecart, and the rails are not powered for long enough for the minecart to roll away. There you have it. But the problem we now face is that it will dispense the minecart, but there's no redstone signal that's going to make you roll away. Jump in. And we're not going anywhere. What I really need, and I want this to happen on the same button push, is I want to press that button and I want 2 redstone pulses. I want one tick pulse to release the minecart onto the rail, and I want a second pulse, slightly longer, to go into possibly this block and power this rail so it can send me on my merry way. I want an amount of time between the two so that that minecart stays still for long enough for me to sit on it, grab my handbag and my phone, make sure I'm perfectly comfortable, and then, after a couple of moments, I then want to be sent off on my way. And here's the solution. By placing an extra block between my button and the monostable circuit, I am able to add a second line of redstone that splits the signal between the monostable circuit and the secondary signal. This pulse is still 10 ticks long, and the pulse that comes out of here is only 1 tick. And we can demonstrate this with sticky pistons. So I'm going to press that button. Immediately, this sticky piston is going to fire for 1 tick, and that block's going to stay in the air. And what will happen at the same time is that the 10-tick pulse will come out here, go through these 3 repeaters, 4, 8, 12 redstone ticks will pass, the sticky piston will lift, it will stay up there for 10 ticks, and it will come back down again. Hey. Okay, this looks way more complicated than what we had earlier, so I'm going to build it with you in real time. Sandstone block forming our ramp. Rail, 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 rail. Break that. 2 iron blocks. Button. Dispenser. facing the rail. Fill it up with minecarts. Side note, if you're struggling to get that dispenser to face you, then just place a temporary block behind where you want it to be and place it on the back face of that, and it will face you. Chances are what you're doing is you're standing too close to it and trying to place it like that, and it's pointing up in the air. So if you get plenty far enough away, place it on the floor kind of towards the back corner, it will face you, or obviously with the temporary block, just do that. Redstone dust on top of the button block. First circuit. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So the first button pulse is going to go from this button, down this block, into that repeater, 4 tick delay, into that dust, 4 tick delay, 4 tick delay, 4 tick delay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 16 tick delay between hitting that button and this block being powered for 10 redstone ticks. As you're about to see, it will not cause the dispenser to fire, but it will power this block and therefore these rails. Now onto the monostable. Block of iron up, block of iron, sticky piston, block of iron. Redstone dust pointing into that iron block. You can take a monostable output around a corner, which is great news because that's what we're doing. Get rid of that. Repeater out. 2 blocks of iron. Redstone dust. I want to be clear of all of this circuitry, so I'm going to go up a block. Which means that this block here is not going to be powered by any of this redstone. Along, down, and then our single pulse output will go along here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down the stairs, in there, and repeater input into the dispenser. So we've got 2 circuits. When we hit the button, the first pulse is going to go down here, into these repeaters, into that block, and power that. Before these rails get powered, we're going to have a 1 tick pulse come out of this monostable, along here, down here, across the coffee table, into the redstone repeater, and for 1 tick into the dispenser. Here we go. Hey! And there's that 16 tick delay. We can give it even longer than that. If we're clever with our repeaters, we can extend this pulse. So the first thing we're going to have to do is obviously get rid of some of the existing. Going to move this off to one side, bit more redstone dust, turn the corner, repeater, 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 repeater. How many repeaters do you want? Well, you can't have that many because it joins up with that. So you need to move back one and make sure that your signals are all detached from one another. One more repeater, bit more dust there so it turns the corner. Now, do note, if that dust is there, the circuit will simply do this and go back in with an 8 tick delay. So that needs to go over there so that this redstone and this redstone do not connect. Extend these 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 lots of 4, 28. We've got a 28 redstone tick delay, minus obviously the 1 tick, the 2 ticks that put that dispenser in there. So we hit the button, 2 ticks pass, we get a minecart, and then 26 more ticks pass, and that's the amount of time we've got to get in the rail, grab our handbag and our phone, and make sure all our arms and legs are inside the vehicle. Loads of time. And here is the exact same thing, wired differently again. Button, 10 tick output, into this circuit, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 16 tick delay again. And this dust goes up here, monostable circuit, output, down the stairs, into the back of here, into this repeater, and into the dispenser. So hit the button, monostable circuit, dispenses a cart. All the while, that delay is happening, and eventually this block gets powered, and it powers that rail. Bang, bang. You go off, you go back to where you're going, you come back again, and when you hit that rail, it stops you. You jump out, you break that, and you pop your minecart back in the dispenser. We went through some very thorough levels of knowledge there, and we got from very, very simple all the way over in that corner to very, very advanced over the course of the last 15 minutes or so. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found it suitably educational. Whoa, I'm flying. If there are any glaring omissions in the video that you don't like, or if you think there are some things that I missed out that I could have stood to include, then please don't hesitate to let me know. I would love to hear from you in the comments section. Thanks very much. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye. Oh, And if you really enjoyed it, you could like and you could subscribe. New videos coming out every 2 weeks, possibly even more frequently than that. More on Craft episode 2 in particular coming out shortly. Cheerio!